Welcome, friends. This is Brevity Sports, coming at you from our caves where we talk major news in major sports. Here with my co-host, Big Z, and myself, Fredo Lay. Welcome, everybody. We are back for the second time this week. Hopefully, you already listened to our draft. If you didn't, no worries. Just listen to this one, right? Last one, we just did a little mock draft with some buddies. If you missed it, it's just good fun. If you're sitting around later, having a couple drinks, getting on YouTube, check it out. It's pretty funny. We roasted Jason the Showman Stroman a little bit. We laughed at some of Mitchie's terrible picks. It was fantastic. Big Z, say hi to the people.
What's up, guys? Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in for a second time this week. This is the first time that we've done a multiple episode a week. Reaction, release. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for guys. We appreciate the love. We hope that this will really help you guys in your fantasy football endeavors. And we can't wait to come at you guys with some of our top picks in each in the NFC tonight.
Yeah, we're kind of doing something fun tonight. So instead of going, division by division like some of the podcasts do, we're just going NFC and AFC. And then from those picks, you can kind of pick whoever you'd like to pick, decide which guys you want to take. And at the end, we'll kind of give you a little rundown. But at the end of the day, listen, the NFC is interesting. There's some stronger positions than the AFC. There's some weaker positions than the AFC. So we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down very simply for you guys. We're going to tell you about the best quarterbacks. We're going to tell you about the best running backs. We're going to tell you about the best wide receivers, then tight ends, wrap it up with the best defense, and we'll move on from there. Without further ado, again, if you don't already, check us out, Brevity Sports on IG, as well as Twitter, YouTube. Check us out. We're posting stuff daily. Got videos for you about our days, whether we're going to a baseball game, whatever it is. It's always a good time. Ooh. Listen, here we go. The NFC. In my opinion, I think this is wide open. I really think that this is wide open. I really do think the QBs in the NFC, it could go any way. It could go any way here. We're gonna see, man. It's a tough. It was a tough pick. So I'm gonna say my one, then you say your one. That way nobody's left out to dry. So my number one quarterback, and I think we'll probably agree on this one. I got Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the best quarterback coming out of the NFC. Finished third last year, 40 points behind Mahomes, but he missed the last two games. He had 384 points last season. And I'll be honest with you, he is the goal line running back for the Eagles. If they need 1 yard, this dude, he lifts or deadlifts or whatever it was, presses like 700 pounds, some ridiculous amount. I don't see that changing. So I think between that, he's going to get better as a passer of the ball. If he's still running the ball on the 5 yard line, they're going to be fine. So,
yeah, that's why I think like it's him, it's just or Jalen Hurts, and then it drops off to our next guy, because the sole fact that he had 13 rushing touchdowns last year as a quarterback, that elevates him by far as the number one in the NFC. Like you said, he had 3,700 rushing passing yards last year. I think it's just going to get better, and he probably would have had over 4,000 if he wasn't injured the last two games. So I think that this guy is easily the number one pick. I think the Eagles are going to evolve even more around him as an offense. So yeah, he's obviously the number one.
Over 4,000, yes. And that's what we meant by wide open, because after him, it is a chasm, ladies and gentlemen. Unless you're Jason the Showman Stroman, who's deluded, who thinks that maybe somebody else could be the guy. I don't know, man. Listen, here we go. My next guy, I got Justin Fields. I don't know how you feel about it. I think Justin Fields.
I agree, man. I agree with you. Yep.
He's at least explosive. He finished with 307, but was held back till about week 7. He's big, he's strong, and he's built similar to Jalen, and that's what I like about him. They added a new wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore, and he can break it out at any time. He had 1,143 yards rushing. And again, he was only set loose for about half the year. So if he can stay up, if he can stay healthy, I think this guy has a really good chance to be one of the top quarterbacks in fantasy football. Again, keep in mind, people, we are not talking about football, okay? We're talking about fantasy football, okay? So this is not our ranking. Like, this quarterback is better than, some of these other guys. Like, wait, what? Justin Fields, fantasy points wise, I think he can get you some really high points. Big Z, what do you think?
Yeah, he had 1,143 rushing yards, like you said. So that is 111 points in addition to the passing yards and the passing touchdowns in fantasy leagues. I think the addition of DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, another great tight end for him, and the evolution of offense around him and him actually working on his passing game during the offseason. I think that really helps him and elevates him to be in the top 3 discussion in NFC quarterbacks and in fantasy football. The dude's a beast. He's strong.
Yeah.
He's not going to really get hurt. He's not like a Kyler Murray who has a really tiny frame. No offense to him. That's just how he is. Justin Fields is a big guy, and he can take a beating, kind of like a Lamar Jackson type of guy, like a Jalen Hurts guy, like you said. So I think that he's a number 2 for me too.
100%. I'm going to make you go first on this number 3. I want to see what you think about the number 3. Who's your number 3 quarterback, Big Z?
Man, this is a stretch. This is hard because it really drops off here. And I really do.
Right.
But I
100%.
I'm going with Dak. I'm going with Dak Prescott. Last year, he had, I think, his worst year. He only had 2,800 passing yards. He only had 1 rushing touchdown, and that's not really Dak-like. He had 15 interceptions. I think this year, with the addition of Brandon Cooks, that's really going to help open up the field for him. I think that he's going to have a lot more opportunities to rush the ball. Only 182 rushing yards last year. And with McCarthy calling the plays, I think it's going to be a little more conservative, but I think he's going to have a lot more passing yards. He only had 2,800 passing yards last year. So I really think that he's going to probably eclipse the 4,000 mark, and he's going to throw a lot more passing TDs. So he's my number 3. I don't really know you can put there unless it's like a Kirk Cousins, maybe, but I'm really interested to see who you put number 3.
It was between 2 guys. It was between Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott. And I just could not pull the trigger on Daniel Jones. I wanted to, but when you looked at Daniel Jones rushing yards and he had 776, but the year before he only had about like 400. Like he had never rushed that much in his entire life. So we don't know if he's going to do it again. I think Jason, the Showman Stroman, is somewhere out there just rejoicing that we're giving praise to his boy. I agree with you. Actually, I think it's Dak Prescott. And I think it's Dak Prescott purely because of his weapons. Having said that, I want it to be clear. I think if Dak was better, the Cowboys would be Super Bowl favorites, because when you look at the weapons that they have around him with Pollard and Lamb and Cooks and Gallup and all of these different weapons, the offensive line, the defense, this guy has all the pieces he needs to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to, because I don't believe in Dak enough to say they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think he will eventually lose it for them. But in terms of your fantasy football playoffs, if the AFC quarterbacks are gone, the few NFC quarterbacks we just mentioned are gone, Dak is probably the next one up. I will say there's quite a few AFC quarterbacks I would take before Dak. There's about 5 or 6 dudes from the AFC I would take before Dak Prescott. So I really want to be clear with that, but I do agree with you. And I think more than anything, it was more so just because of that chasm. There was no honorable mentions for me here. I think after that, it was kind of like you said, unless you're going to go Kirk Cousins, and that guy just, oh boy, Kirk. Oh boy. I don't know what to do with you. I will say this: the running backs in the NFC look a lot better. I'm gonna let you go first on number 1 because I already know who you got. I'll let you glow first, second on your boy. Your number 1 running back is.
It's CMC, man. Christian McCaffrey, he's a beast.
Come on, son.
With the 49ers, with Shanahan, they get creative. I think he's going to have less carries this year, but that means it's going to open up the backfield for dinking and dunking from Brock Purdy over to him. That's what Brock Purdy excels in, is the short game, 5 to 10 yard passes. CMC can get anywhere on the field, and he's going to have a lot of receptions, especially if you're playing in a PPR format. You want to get this guy. Don't be scared of his injury history. It doesn't matter, because he is a home run hitter. If he's there at number 1, 2, or 3, you take him, because he is that good of a guy. And Kyle Shanahan will get the most out of him. He had passing touchdowns last year, for goodness sake. So I'm going CMC.
100%. You got to go CMC. He finished right behind Josh Jacobs with 269 fantasy points last year. His dual threat make him everything you wanted to be. Look, and he's got a capable backup. That's what I like too, is if you look at a guy like Mitchell, some people might take this as a negative. You should look at this as a positive. First, if you go get McCaffrey, you know they're not going to overuse him because Mitchell is capable. Second, if you do go get a McCaffrey, go get a Mitchell behind him. Go pick up Mitchell in the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round. Big as he did that last draft. Made a lot of sense to me. I loved it because he's going to get touches regardless. So go pick you up a Mitchell, especially if they're playing a team you know they're going to blow out. It's never a bad idea to go put Mitchell out there, because if they start blowing people out, they're not going to put CMC out there just for fun. If they're up 21-0, they're going to start grinding you out. They're going to start giving the ball to Debo. They're going to start giving the ball to Mitchell. They're going to let McCaffrey get his rest 100%. I love it. I love that pick. My second guy, because he figured it out. He figured out the contract for me. It's got to be Saquon Barkley out of the NFC. I think Saquon Barkley, he finished 6th with 227 points, but he missed week 18 because they were already locked into the playoffs. He did not play. If he did, I think he moves up, but he's their workhorse. Again, this is one of those weird times when we're talking about a Mitchell behind a Saquon or behind a CMC, and Mitchell can still get touches. There is no guy like that for the Giants. It is Barkley and nobody else. If Barkley's not doing well, the Giants aren't doing well. Barkley is the workhorse. He's the guy. He's going to get 1 million touches whenever somebody runs the ball. When it's out, a little pass out in the flat, Barkley's getting the ball. That's why he's my second best running back from the NFC. What do you think about that?
I agree with you 100%, man. Saquon he's the guy. He is the Giants. He's their offense. Without him, they're nothing. And I think this year he's determined also because he only signed a 1-year contract. I think he's determined to even go further than the one he did last year. Last year he had 1,300 rushing yards, which is a career high, 10 rushing touchdowns. The thing to me, only 338 receiving yards. I think he's going to up that. I think that Daniel Jones and him are going to figure out how to get him more involved in the passing game. He can create a lot of things in the open field. So if he's able to get the ball on a lot of screen passes, a lot of little short slants, he's going to be able to make some guys miss because he's that talented, he's that fast, and he's that strong. I think he's going to get a lot more receiving yards this year. And like you said, he's the workhorse for the Giants. I think he's my number 2 for sure.
100%. I love that. Who is your number 3? Because again, I felt like those two were super obvious to me. Like if I'm drafting, I'm taking those 2 guys, and I'm gonna be honest with you, CMC is my first running back off the board. Then it might be a couple guys from the AFC, and then Saquon Barkley. I'm not gonna lie to you, the AFC does have some good running backs as well, but it was from the NFC. It was CMC, then Barkley, and I don't mind Barkley in the first round. We all said it loud. We all said it on the draft we just did. The fact that Jason the Showman Strom was able to get him in the middle of a second was a steal. That's an absolute steal. If you're drafting in the second round and he's there, you got to take him. Who's your third guy in the NFC, Big Z?
This was tough, man. I'm going Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, just to name some stats from last year at Texas, he had almost 1,600 rushing yards, 18 touchdowns, 314 receptions, and 4 reception yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he's going to be the workhorse for the Falcons when it comes to running backs. I know Algier is behind him. Algier is a 1,000-yard rusher last year. But Bijan Robinson was drafted to be the guy in Atlanta. He's a beast. He's built big. He's built like Saquon. So I don't think that injury is going to be a factor with him. Knock on wood, but he's my number 3 just because of where he was drafted, and his usage rate is going to be big because of that.
Oh, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I think it's got to be Bijan. When you look at his ability to break tackles, breaking that record, you look at the stats that you just mentioned, he is a dog. He is a specimen. I mean, he's highly touted Saquon, or, one of these types, right? The dude is a specimen. When you look at Atlanta, they finished last. It's a new look. You got Ritter, keys to the castle. I think they're going to just look better. I think there's going to be less, uncertainty. I think Ritter's the guy coming in. It's no Marcus Mariota. Is he going to work out? Is he not going to work out? Is Kyle Pitts going to be good? Is he not going to be good? They feel like they have the guy in Ritter. Bijan is going to take some of the pressure off him, so they're going to use him quite a bit. And again, I could not agree more. And going back to exactly what we said about CMC, if you get a Bijan, get that handcuff. Somewhere on the 10th, 11th, 12th round, start looking for Algier. Doesn't matter if somebody feels like you're reaching. If you get Bijan, go get the handcuff Algier, because if he goes down, you have a very capable 1,000-yard rusher right behind him. Make sure if you're drafting one of these 2 guys, go get their handcuff. Go get that guy that's behind them. This isn't like Saquon, where if he goes down, it's like the backup might step in. He might do okay. He might not. Mitchell and Algier are incredible backups. They're very good football players. And honestly, that raised the capital for Bijan, knowing if I go draft this guy, I can get protected and draft his backup somewhere around the later rounds, I think 12th round or so. So I actually love that pick. And again, he rushed for over 1,000 yards. So it's not like you're getting a slouch. It's not like you're getting somebody who can't rush the ball. The wide receivers for the NFC, I felt like this was a pretty dominant group. I think when you look at the NFC, look at the AFC, look at the top 3 wide receivers, you got to get these guys in the first, by the second round, midway through the second round, latest. All the names that we're going to bring up in the AFC and NFC, you got to go get these guys. You just have to. If you try to wait to get these guys in the second round, they're not going to be there. Okay. So you really got to decide if you're going to get a running back, if you're going to get a receiver, you really got to start deciding that. Big Z, who was your first wide receiver? I got a feeling we're going to say the same guy.
Justin Jefferson. He
Justin
is
Jefferson.
the guy, and for now, at least the first half of the season, I think he is the only guy in Minnesota. You have Addison coming on. He's going to be a good piece, but Justin Jefferson, he's the dog. He's going to dominate the offense, especially now that Cook is gone. Yet you have Madison, but we really don't know how much of a workload he can take as the number one running back. I think that Kirk Cousins' one goal this year is to keep Justin Jefferson happy. That is what everyone is telling him. Like, you throw the ball to him as many times as you can, because we need this guy to stay a Minnesota Viking for the rest of his career. So I'm going Justin Jefferson number one. You really can't get mad at that. That's a home run pick.
240 points last year, the number one wide receiver. He was a dog. He had ducks in week 17 and 18, but the Vikings had already clinched at that point. They'd already won their division. Yeah. They knew they probably weren't going to get home field advantage. So I don't know if maybe Kirk wasn't throwing him the ball. His biggest weakness, honestly, is Kirk Cousins. That is his only weakness, that Kirk Cousins is the one throwing him the ball. But Justin Jefferson seems like a little bit like some of the other guys, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase. He's kind of quarterback proof, right? As long as you can throw the ball in his general vicinity, he's going to go up. He's going to make circus catches. He's going to create space. He's going to do what he needs to do to get open. So he's going to be just fine. My second guy, and this is where we could differ a little bit, but my second guy to the NFC, I got Cooper Kupp. Look, I know a lot of people want to sleep on this dude. I'm telling you right now, do not sleep on this dude. Okay, he was injured last year, but in 2021, I just told you that Justin Jefferson was first place last year with 240 points. Cooper Kupp in 2021 had 294 points and was the dude by a massive margin. He was the guy, and it wasn't even close. It doesn't matter if you triple team him. It doesn't matter how many guys you have on him. His route running is unreal. It's sort of like a Devontae Adams type player. Like it just doesn't matter. He's going to get open. He's going to find space. So the second guy on the board for me is Cooper Kupp. Again, these two guys, they should be gone in your drafts in the top 6 picks. If one of them is there after 6, go get him. Do whatever you got to do to get him. Don't think about it. Don't sleep on it. Just go get him.
I agree with you, man. Cooper Kupp's my number 2. As a 49er fan, I know how good this guy is. You're talking about 2021. He had 1,947 receiving yards. That the most in NFL history.
Insane.
Yeah, it was 17 games, but he's a beast. Like you said, he finds the open part of the field. It doesn't matter what route he's supposed to run. He's going to be open, and Stafford's going to find him. They have a great chemistry. When they traded for Stafford, it just looked like they had been together for 10 plus seasons. So Cooper Kupp is a beast. He's not a speedy guy, which is why I like him, actually. He's just going to be there 10, 12 yards down the field and get those receptions and get those points. And he's going to find the open part in the end zone, which will enable him to score a lot of touchdowns. So Cooper Kupp's my number 2 easily. Go get him.
100%.
First round, he should be gone. Yeah. If
he's the guy,
if he falls to you, get him. Yeah.
He's the guy. He's 100% the guy. Look, that's the incredible part. Yes, he had 17 weeks to do it, but when you look at a guy who used to hold the record like a Megatron, he was such a physical specimen. It's like, oh yeah, of course this guy has the record. Cooper Kupp is not that dude. He's not the tallest, not the biggest, not the fastest. He just knows how to run routes. He knows how to get open. Who is your third receiver, Big Z?
All right. This was going to be different. I know who you got, and it's not him. I'm going with another guy, and a lot of people are probably going to think I'm stupid, but I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit. I think that this guy's a stud. I think that he had a huge year last year. Him and Jared Goff really looked like they got along with each other, and that they had a really good chemistry going. And the Lions are building upon what they built on last year. I think that they're a winning team, a winning organization. Dan Campbell is great. I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only receiver that they have at the moment, because one of their big guys is going to be suspended for the first couple of weeks. So that's going to enable him to get most of the target share, especially with TJ Hawkinson gone. I think you can't go wrong with drafting this guy late first round, early second round. I think that he's going to be on the board. And if he falls to you, I think you should go get him.
100%. You know, it's not the same guy that I have, but I love me some Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was super high on him last year. And if I wasn't even higher on this guy, that would have been my next guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown would have for sure been my next guy. He's going to have a great year. He is the dude with the Lions. He is the unquestionable alpha dog there. But I got CeeDee Lamb. If we took Dak as one of the better quarterbacks, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a part of that. He's going to be the dude. He finished 6th last year. With Prescott only playing 12 games. And a little bit in this scenario, QB mattered. Cooper Rush throwing the ball was not great. Okay. And again, he still put up that many points with a guy like Cooper Rush. He's going to have a big year. When I look at the Cowboys right now, I'm thinking Dak is trying to save his job. He's already come out and said, I'm throwing under 10 interceptions. He knows what's at stake. CeeDee Lamb knows what's at stake. They got Cooks. They have the weapons. They're going to try to spread the field out. So I feel like CeeDee Lamb is just going to have an absolute massive year. In my opinion, he does have the opportunity or the possibility of being the wide receiver 1. I don't know that it happens, but he does have the skill set. He's fast. He's explosive. He runs great routes. I love watching him. He really does strike me as electric. So I got CeeDee Lamb, but I do not mind your Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think if you get either of those guys, you're going to be very happy on your roster.
And the only reason I didn't go CeeDee Lamb is because of the addition of Brandon Cooks. I know that that's not a big name, but Brandon Cooks is going to find a lot of those receiving yards, and I think potentially take some of those opportunities away from CeeDee Lamb. Nothing against his talent. His talent is great. He is one of the best route runners in the game. I think up there with Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. But because of that addition, I think it could really hurt him fantasy-wise.
All right. So, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I see you're coming from with that. We're looking at tight ends next. We are flying through this thing for you people. Keep paying attention. Keep listening. Don't turn us down because we're flying. We got the next list, tight ends, top 3, Big Z. This was tough. This was really tough because tight ends, again, if you didn't listen to our draft, you don't know what we think about tight ends. You got to go back, listen to that mock draft, listen to like even 1.5 speed, or even just go watch the YouTube, push pause on the final screen where you saw each of our teams. Tight ends, there's a couple guys you want, and then there's everybody else, and you're basically picking them off of value and where you can grab them. Big Z, who's your first NFC tight end off the board?
I'm going Kittle. I know that Hawkinson was 2nd overall last year, but the reason I'm going Kittle is because once Brock Purdy was inserted in the offense, that's when Kittle exploded. Brock Purdy's healthy. He's starting. He's a starting QB at camp right now. Trey Lance is 3rd string. Sam Darnold's for sure going to be the 2nd. So with him and Purdy just having an off season together, a training camp together, I think that he's going to take strides. He had 11 touchdowns last year. He has an act for finding the end zone no matter where he's at on the field. He's an absolute dog. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's for sure going to outpace TJ Hawkinson for that number 1 spot in the NFC tight end race.
What a great pick. You know, it's funny. When I read that Trey Lance was the 3rd string, I was like, all right, so y'all got that wrong. Like, y'all missed that pick because this dude is 3rd string. Like, come on, son. I got Kyle Pitts. I know last year he sucked, but again, Marcus Mariota unfortunately couldn't come close to throwing him the ball. I like Marcus Mariota. I'm not trying to talk best, but again, the dude only had 20 possible target. Like, out of all the targets, only like less than 20 of them were actually catchable. That's kind of crazy. And again, I like this guy. The guys that I picked, you can get this guy later on. You don't need to spend a high pick, right? When I look at a George Kittle, what makes me pause is kind of the same reason. I agree with you. I actually think he could still have a big year, but what makes me pause is all the weapons that the Niners have. When you go get a Kittle, like Kittle's going to have big games, and he might, who knows, he might come out and just get a touchdown every week and just be one of the best tight ends all year long. It's totally possible. But when I look at the Niners preseason, I'm thinking McCaffrey this week, Debo next week, Ayuk this week, Mitchell that week. They have so many weapons that it's just like, man, they have so many ways to score the ball. Right. But I do like Kittle there. I just went Pitts because, again, I feel like they got London, Pitts, and Bijan, and one of those dudes is going to score, and Pitts is a big body. London is not a massive receiver, so I feel like in the red zone, he's going to be that guy for London. He's going to be that safety valve. My number 2 for me, Dallas Goedert. I know we're hating on Hawkinson. I know it seems like somebody out there is like, nobody's mentioned the name of Hawkinson. Listen, again, when I look at a guy like Dallas Goedert, last year, yes, he did finish tight end 10, but he missed 5 weeks. He missed 5 weeks and still finished as the tight end number 10, okay? He is the safety valve for Jalen Hurts. If you actually watch the Eagles play, he is a safety valve. If AJ doesn't get open, if Devontae doesn't get open, he's the guy they go to, and then sometimes they just go to him just because. He is that dude. Again, look at the value. You can get this guy around the 7th round, 6th, 7th round. You can easily get this dude. I really like his value for that reason. Who you got number 2 on your tight end list, Big Z?
Number 2 is Kyle Pitts for me. For all those
Okay.
reasons that you listed, I think that because you have Bijan Robinson, there's going to be less attention on Pitts. So that opens up the field a little bit more for him, less double teams. Drake London's kind of coming to his own. So you're going to have more guys looking at them. Also, because you have Ritter, a whole new quarterback, a whole new system. I think it's really going to open up things for him. And also, he has a wide receiver build too. So like you said, you had a lot of routes that he ran last year that Marcus Mariota missed him down the field, deep down the field. I think that he's still going to be able to run those routes, but this time he's going to be hit a lot more because Ritter has a better arm than Marcus Mariota. So he's my number 2 for me. He's really athletic. I think that he's a great spot right there.
100%. 100%. My number 3 was the guy you mentioned first. I got George Kittle. I think he's a great tight end. I think he's the number 3 guy easily for me. I don't know that he's going to get as many targets as like a Pitts just because the offense he's in, but George Kittle is also a beast. He doesn't necessarily need that many targets. The thing that strikes me about George Kittle is the first guy never brings him down. One dude is not going to bring down George Kittle. You got to gang tackle him, and that's what I love about him. Again, he is not the fastest tight end. When you look at the tight ends running routes, he's not the best at routes. He's not the fastest. He's not the biggest, but he loves to play football. He loves to block. So all of a sudden, when he's blocking a dude, turns upfield, and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I finally beat his block, and he's 25 yards behind you, going to the red zone. I love it. George Kittle, for me, is my number 3 with ease. And those 3 guys, I think if you get any of those, Pitts, Goddard, or Kittle, I think you should feel great about your fantasy draft. Big Z, who you got?
I'm going with TJ Hawkinson with my number 3.
All right, there he is. We finally mentioned him.
Yeah, last year, like, you have to put, for my opinion, you have to put him in top 3 in the NFC. 914 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. He is Kirk Cousins's safety valve, in my opinion. Yeah, if you have Justin Jefferson triple teamed, he's gonna dink it and dunk it to TJ Hawkinson. Last year, a lot of his yards came probably in a few games that he had just like 200 plus yards with Jared Goff. I think one of them was with the Vikings, but I do think that he deserves to be number 3 just because of the year he had last year. He's not athletic really, but he is a big target, and big targets are good in the end zone, and that's going to give you fantasy points, those touchdowns. So TJ Hawkinson for me is the number 3 NFC tight end.
100%. I think what makes TJ so tough for me is the value of him. If you can get TJ in like the 5th, I'm taking TJ all day long. But right now he's going 3 and 4. Like that's what I'm seeing. He's going 3rd round, 4th round. And that's what made him so tough for me is that when I'm looking at a guy, right. That's what I'm saying. If I'm looking at these other guys, Pitts in the 7th, Goddard in the 7th, Kittle in the 6th or 7th, I'd rather have any one of those 3 than having to give up a number 4. Because again, when you look at the number 4, and again, I hate to keep giving our own little plug here, but if you go listen to our mock draft, my first 4 picks were, I had Najee and Saquon and Lamb and another good receiver. Like, I don't know that I'm going to move anybody. I think DK Metcalf. So if you're looking at me and telling me a DK or Hawkinson, I guess it's close. But again, if I get him in the 5th, I would. If he's sitting there in the 5th round, I probably would pull that trigger. But I don't want to have to get him in the 3rd or 4th.
It depends on where
you're at, man.
For you guys, but yeah, we say don't get him in the 4th round because if you look at the AFC, there's a lot of tight ends. Like all those guys are going to be better than him anyway. So, and then like you said, you have Dallas Goedert, like that. You could be flip flop. So
right.
He has a big potential to be better than TJ Hawkinson, in my opinion. Like I said, he missed 5 games last year, and he was still that good, much of a stud when it came to his stats. So. Yeah, don't get him in the top 4 rounds. I wouldn't give him the 5th round. I'd give him 6th round and below, in my opinion.
Right. If you get him, if he falls to you, take him.
If
5th or 6th, start thinking about him. Start thinking about him 5th or 6th, end of the 5th. End of the 5th is really the first time. Your first, in this draft specifically, your first 4 or 5 rounds should be wide receivers, running backs. It's not deep, especially you got to have 2 wide receivers on your roster by the time that 5th turn if you don't have 2 wide receivers on your team by the 5th round or through the 5th round, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. It's going to be difficult to make a comeback from that. I do have one honorable mention in this one. He wasn't top 3 for me, but I will say, and this kind of goes into the sleeper a little bit, which we're going to get into in a second, but I think Darren Waller you can get him super late. You can get him super late, and we'll go into those reasons in a second once we get a sleeper. But Big Z, I have a feeling I know the answer to this next question. I picked a different team, which is going to be fun. Who you got for your best defense in the NFC?
I got San Francisco. I mean,
come on, son. Come on, son.
It's easy, man. You got Nick Bosa. He led the league in sacks last year. He's going to break the all-time record, single season record this year. You got Fred Warner. You have a great linebacking core, and the Niners have worked on their secondary this offseason, which is great for them. So that makes them even harder of a brick wall to get through. I'm going San Francisco. They get you a lot of sacks, a lot of forced fumbles. That's their thing. They like to create turnovers, and they live for that. And so that's why I'm loving San Francisco as number one.
Yep. That's all I'm going to say. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
I wanted to pick the Cowboys. And as I was preparing my notes, I just kept one name. And in my mind, he doesn't get enough praise because of guys like Joey Bosa, which Joey Bosa is great. Don't get me wrong. But like one name, Fred Warner. Like that dude gives teams nightmares. Like he's a linebacker that's as fast as a cornerback, as athletic as a wide receiver, but is built like a freaking running back. It's insane. Like the dude's skill set is just unmatched. And I know somebody out there is like, what about the Cowboys? The Cowboys are going to have a great defense. Look, Micah Parsons is still a dog. This is the best defense. If you ask me number two, it's the Cowboys. But if we're asking the number one defense, the Niners defense is going to be sick. They're the ones that carried them. Let's be honest. Brock Purdy is not nearly as successful if he's trying to huck the ball down the field. But the Niners really never found themselves in holes. I mean, they took out the Cowboys, right, in the playoffs last year. So we have to give them that credit. We have to give them that respect. And then, they lost a close one to the Eagles. But again, they were absolutely in that game. So for me, the Niners defense, 100%, I think they've gotten better. They certainly haven't gotten worse. And it's time for the sleepers. Now, these are the guys that... This was kind of interesting to me. I didn't go super deep sleepers. And again, there are some deep sleepers if you really want to get into it. But in the NFC, I didn't see that many. Big Z, give me a sleeper.
I got a one sleeper for the NFC. And I think it's really easy. This guy's been falling really low in drafts. And I think that he's getting a lot of disrespect. But it's Aaron Jones to me.
Yeah.
If this guy, you're going to get him in the round 7 or 8. Like I think he went in round 8, I believe, in the mock draft that we just did. But last year he had 1,121 rushing yards and 395 receiving yards, which is a career high for him. AJ Dillon took a lot of his touchdowns. He only had, I believe, 2 rushing touchdowns last year. Aaron Jones, I think that this guy is going to get a lot more of the touchdowns because he is the guy. He's probably the most talented offensive guy on the field for the Packers now. That Aaron Rodgers is gone, that Devontae Adams is gone. He's the next guy up, next man up, and you're going to be able to get great value for him. Don't take him in the 4th or 5th. I think that he's going to stay there. He's going to be there in 6 or 7, and you guys can have a great running back number 2 or maybe even 3 as a flex by taking Aaron Jones that late.
Yeah, 100%. I was trying to see if I could see where we got him. It's not showing me, but yes, I 100% agree with that. I think he was pretty late. I have 2 sleepers for the NFC, just purely based, and they're both running backs. I'm not going to lie to you. One, I already showed my hand. He's a sleeper to me because I think his potential, since he's gotten into the league, he has a chance to be one of the elite running backs in the game. It might come off as a homer take, but I want you to hear me out. I think Cam Akers, you can get him in the 5th, get him in the 6th. The only problem for Cam is going to be, and I did this in the draft, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're at the end of the 5th round, go get him. It's an easy pick at the end of the 5th round. Yeah. Probably not at the beginning of the 5th round. He's more towards the 6th. I had to do what I had to do, which is a bit of a bummer because I was in 10 spot. So I picked him at 5.1, but at 5.10, he's a great value. Okay. And it's a guy. The reason is, again, he is one of the rare workhorses in the league. The Rams don't have anybody else. Okay. They signed Sony. That's all you need to know. When a team goes out, they have a couple rookies, a couple guys that were behind him, like Williams, whatever. When they go get a veteran, right? What they're saying is these other guys are not good enough. What they're saying is we need depth at this position. We need somebody, if this guy goes down or something that happens with this guy, that we can get this veteran to come in. So they went out, they got Sony. Sony retired. Okay. He's done. Okay. He doesn't want to play football anymore. So now it's Cam. It's Cam and then the guys that they went out and got a veteran over because they're not sure how they're going to play. So for me, Cam 100% is a sleeper. And the next one, you can get him even later. This dude is going in a 7th round and for no other reason than his team is terrible. James Conner. Again, he is going to be the workhorse. He's going to be the dog. They don't even have anybody who could throw the ball in week 1 that we know of, unless Kyler Murray's back. And if Kyler Murray's back, even more so, it's going to be James Conner. He's going in the 7th. And in 2021, he was the fifth best running back in fantasy football. You heard me right, the 5th. And you can get this guy right now in the 7th. Again, we're talking about later rounds. If you're going to take a shot, go get this guy. He's totally a sleeper in my mind. I love him. Yes. Draft placement, Big Z. Draft placement. Right. The 1 through 3 pick. Talk to me about it, dude. Talk to me.
Well, I think it's tough. It really depends on what type of league you're in. If it's a PPR, non-PPR, half PPR. But assuming we're in a PPR, I play in a PPR. All my leagues are that. 1 through 3, I'm going wide receiver, running back at number 2, and then wide receiver at 3. I think that wide receivers, especially nowadays, that's just how the offenses work. That's how they move the ball down the field, and those are the guys getting the big home run hitting plays. So I'm going wide receivers, 2 out of the first 3 picks right there.
100%. I play half PPR, and I agree. There's only 1 running back I'm taking 2 receivers. I'm taking CMC, I'm taking Jefferson, I'm taking Cup. Those are the guys I'm looking at. Maybe Chase. Chase would have been in there a little bit more. We'll get into that in the next episode when we talk about the AFC, but those are the guys I'm taking. 4 through 6, for me, at 4 through 6, I think you're looking running back. I think you're really looking heavy running back at the guys who are falling to there. I think you're looking at guys, again, we're going to get more into them, but you're looking at guys like Bijan, Saquon, and then an Eckler, somebody right there. If you can get those guys in the 4 through 6, I think you're in a great position.
Yeah. I would do, again, 2 wide receivers and a running back. I think that you put Saquon there or Nick Chubb there. But wide receivers, I think it's such a strong class when you have Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, just those guys. I think that Cooper Kupp also has the ability to kind of fall that late because people are a little scared of his injury status, of him coming off the injury. But like we said, we have all the faith in the world that he can really explode this year. So if he falls down there, like, you obviously need to take him. So that's why I have 2 wide receivers again over the running back.
Who do you do in 7 through 10? You going wide receivers again?
I'm doing a running back 7th, and then I'm doing tight end as the number 8. I think Travis Kelce is great if you find him number 8 because he is a wide receiver of himself. And then you got guys like Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase. So I'm going wide receiver, then wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, those guys are big. So I'm going 3 running backs, 1 tight end, 6 wide receivers in the first round. I'm just a huge proponent of wide receivers, especially in PPR. In the top non-QB scorers last year in the top 20 wide receivers, I think it was 14 wide receivers. So wide receivers are huge fantasy scorers right now, just currently in fantasy leagues.
Yeah, I think I was pretty close. I think I took 4 running backs, a tight end, and 5 receivers. So again, I mean, we're right there. I think when you're looking at the last end, I'm looking for a guy like Chubb there. He's fallen in the later round of the first. I'm looking for a guy like Chubb. I'm looking for a guy like CeeDee Lamb. I'm looking for a Kelce, somebody in that boat. That's what I'm looking for. And that, my friends, is our NFC breakdown. Stay tuned because later on this week, we got another episode dropping for you. That's right. We're talking about 3 episodes, 1 week. That was our NFC breakdown. Our next episode, we're going to be dropping an AFC breakdown for you. It's going to be a good time. Make sure you stay tuned for that. This has been fun. Big Z, say bye to the people.
People, it's been fun for the second time this week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, this is just our breakdown of what we think these guys are going to do fantasy-wise. This is not our breakdown of what we think they can do on their actual teams, right? We're not saying that the Cowboys are going to be the 3rd best team in the league. They're definitely not going to be that high, but Dak Prescott may be the 3rd best NFC quarterback potentially. So just remember that this is purely for fantasy purposes, but we enjoyed it, had a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys listening.
100%. This was just for fantasy. Remember that, okay? We're not talking about your team winning. Like,
Right.
if we were talking about your team winning, we would have mentioned a lot more Jaguars because they're gonna have a great year. We would have mentioned way more Chiefs because they're gonna have a great year. I mean, obviously the AFC, we're probably gonna mention them, but like in the NFC, there's probably a Philadelphia Eagles fans like, wait a minute, I heard one of my guys, I heard one of my dudes, and we were the best team in the NFC. It's because you got so many weapons, right? How am I supposed to pick between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith because they traded off being the number one guy last year, and then you got Goddard. So we did mention you a little bit, you know, Cowboy, same thing, Rams, same thing, Niners, same thing. You know, somebody's not going to feel the love. Just know we're talking about fantasy football. We're talking about the best possible picks. And in later rounds, go listen to our mock draft. You'll learn a bunch there. Thank you so much for listening. We will end this, as we always do, with a very simple thank you for listening.